And with that, I'm very excited to be able to introduce Gary Barzilay, our second speaker for this evening. Gary is a keynote speaker with a long background of success in a very tough industry himself, the real estate industry. I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm really excited to be able to introduce Gary, or give him the opportunity to share some of his journey and to inspire the people who are watching here tonight to get out and make sure that they're doing the very best that they can in their endeavors, whatever industry that happens to be. So good evening, Gary. Great to see you, and I'll hand over the mic for you to move forwards.
Thank you very much, Grant. Thank you for the introduction. That was probably better than what I wrote for you to say about me. So brilliant. Good. 10 points for that. When I moved to New Zealand about 20 years ago, there were three things that I learned about New Zealand really, really quickly. The first thing that I learned is that Auckland is not the capital of New Zealand. The second thing that I learned is that when people say lovely in New Zealand, lovely doesn't always mean good. If it's lovely, then it's good. But if it's just lovely, then they're not happy with you. And the third thing that I learned, and probably the most important thing, is that almost everybody in New Zealand owns a business. And it's either their business, which is their main income generating business, or sometimes it's just a side business, something that they do on the side to get extra income to support their life. And I really, really liked it. I like the fact that everybody here wants to improve their life, to make sure that their future is good and that their life is set. And I decided that as soon as I can in New Zealand, I'm going to become self-employed as well. And my first attempt was going around becoming a self-employed courier, driving around or riding my motorbike around central Auckland delivering packages. Attempt number two was opening a restaurant or a cafe with a friend of mine in Shortland Street. And attempt number three in 2005 was joining the real estate industry and becoming a self-employed real estate salesperson. Real estate is an amazing industry. I loved it, and I still do love it. The constant challenges, the constant rejection that need to constantly go out and push for business. And when I started selling real estate, I was relatively new to New Zealand. I didn't know many people in New Zealand or in Auckland specifically. And I have not done any sales role before in my life. That was selling real estate was the first time in my life that I did any sales. And you can really say that the odds were against me. My odds to succeed were against me. The only, and I always say this, and I cannot tell whether it's going to get some chuckle or not this evening, but the only reason that I got into real estate was simply that my wife told me that I need to go into real estate. And so I got into real estate. I started to work really, really hard. And it took me probably a good year, maybe a year and a half to start earning reasonable money. So I started earning good money, and in 2007, middle of 2007, I changed offices, and a few months later, the great financial crisis hit. And I went almost overnight from earning, at the time I was probably earning roughly $10,000 a month, to no income at all for 1 year. Over 1 year, I didn't earn any income. Actually, I'm lying. I earned $4,000 gross in 1 year. And I struggled. And it wasn't just me. At the same time that I wasn't earning any money, my wife started her business as well. And she was bringing in very small amount of money as well into our house. So we struggled to pay our bills. We struggled to pay the mortgage at 10.5%. And from a financial point of view, that year was probably the worst year of my life. Financially, it was destructive. But from a business learning point of view, from sales learning point of view, it was the best year that I have ever had. Because I learned so many things. I learned so many lessons about sales and about business and running businesses. And 3 of those lessons I'm going to share with you guys this evening, with the hope that you can take those lessons and implement them into your businesses, into your careers, your jobs, and some of it may be into your lives as well. So lesson number 1, when I started selling real estate, I would go and I would knock on doors, same as Kristen did, and I would make phone calls and constantly look for business, talk to people, look for opportunities everywhere I went. And I would meet somebody, I would qualify them, and if they were in the market to buy and sell, I would work with them with the hope of helping them buy or sell. But if they weren't, I will just put them to the side and focus on the people that were looking and that were actively buying or selling. And so that worked well for a while. When the market crashed, I suddenly found myself with no income and no business, because nobody from the people that I worked with was buying or selling. And I realized that I was doing things wrong. I looked at the way that I was running my business, the way that I was doing business, and I realized that I was missing a very important step. When most of us, when we are being taught sales, and that's more or less the way that I was taught, we thought that there's a sales process or a sales cycle. There's very many variations for it, but the basic structure is that we generate leads, we then qualify those leads, we make appointments, we present, we overcome objections, we close, we sell, and we create clients and customers for life. And that's true. But there's that one simple step that nobody taught me has completely changed everything. And that step is follow-up. And I realized that we need to follow up with people that don't make it to the next step in our sales cycle. So we generate leads, we qualify people. If they don't qualify, we don't let them go. We stay in touch and we follow up and we follow up and we follow up, because sooner or later they will qualify, and then we need to work with them. Or we try and make an appointment with somebody and we can't make that appointment. Staying in touch, follow up, follow up, follow up, because sooner or later we will be able to get that appointment. Or we present and we cannot overcome those objections, and they buy from somebody else or they sell with somebody else. That's fine. But we stay in touch and we follow up, because sooner or later they will need to buy again or sell again. And if we stay in touch with them, we'll have the opportunity to help them. So that follow-up became a very, very important part of my business. And I learned that follow-up does a few things. Follow-up gives us the opportunity to create relationships with the people that we are looking at working with. They get to know us better because we communicate with them. Follow-up means that we are able to see them more times, and that they remember us because we see them more times. And it also means that we are more likely to get the opportunity because we are in front of them more times than anybody else. And I realized that in many businesses in New Zealand, and that was my experience many times when I would call a business to get a quote, to get information, they never follow up with me. Many times they wouldn't call me back. Or if I would get some professionals, some builders or other professionals to give me quotes, they will send me the quotes, but there was never a phone call. There was never a follow-up to say, hey, look, we've sent you the information. Are you interested? Do you have questions? And so implementing follow-up into our business is so crucial. Follow-up will mean that we get things done and that things happen better for us, that we are there in front of people all the time. One of the greatest sales trainers that I ever come across, and somebody that I idolize as a sales trainer, Tom Hopkins, says this: it is follow-up, 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 follow-up until they buy or die. And it's a slight exaggeration, but it makes the point that we need to follow up and be in front of people and stay in touch with them. So lesson number 1, follow up all the time. Lesson number 2, when I when salespeople and businesses start, the beginning is usually very, very similar. It's about going out there and looking for opportunities because we have a product or a service or something that we need to sell, and we need to find somebody to sell it to. And so it's all about that constant looking for opportunities. And with businesses and salespeople are probably easier to see. There's a point where they work hard, really work hard, and then the business begins to come in. And in real estate, you could see it. Salespeople get busy, they get some properties go on the market, they work with some buyers, and they begin to focus on that and forget about bringing more business in. And because they focus on that, what happens is that the business will reach a level that it just stays the same, or simply because no more business comes in, the business will drop down. And this is exactly what happened to the real estate industry in 2008 when the market crashed. Suddenly, people had no business. And we found that we had three options. There's always three, but there were three options. One, salespeople could stay where they are, do nothing, and wait for the market to improve. Number two, they could leave the industry, and really about 40%, 50% of salespeople have left the industry in 2008, 2009. Or number three, they could do what I did, and that is going back to basics. Going back to looking at the opportunities, the opportunities and the activities that we have done when we started. Because the activities that we did when we started our business are the activities that brought us to where we are right now. And they are the activities that will leave us at that level as well. It doesn't mean that we don't look for other things, but we need to constantly do those activities. We need to constantly remember the basics, because the basics are the important parts. They are the things that keep our business or our sales happening. And so for me, the basics, going back to basics, meant that I went out to door knock again. It meant that I would sit down in the evening and make phone calls. It meant that I followed up with private sellers. It meant that I went out and looked for opportunities everywhere. And with you guys, wherever it is that you are in your business, if you're salespeople, if you're self-employed, if you have a job right now and you're looking at things, look at your basics, look at the basics in the industry and what it is that you did when you started. Because the things that you did when you started are the things that will keep your business floating. And if you're struggling right now, if your business is struggling, if your sales are struggling right now, look at going back to those basics. If your basics when you started were belonging to network groups, something similar to this one, go back and join those networks. If you had a referral system with somebody and you just let it go because you became busy, go back to that referral system and recultivate the relationships. If you used to make phone calls, go back to make phone calls. If your business was reliant on a certain type of advertisement, go back to looking at doing that advertisement again. It doesn't mean that if you advertised in the trade and exchange 20 years ago, you need to go and do that, because that doesn't exist anymore. But look at the way that you did things and look at the basics and implement the basics again, because that will keep you going. Go back to basics, get the basics right, work them all the time, and those basics will help you. So that was lesson number 2. Lesson number 3. When I started selling, I did a lot of work with buyers. In real estate, when you start, buyers are the main way of earning money. And so I would meet with buyers, I would have a chat with them, see what it is that they wanted to buy, put them in my car, drive them around, and find them some houses, show them those houses, and see if I could sell them one of them. My conversations were really, really simple. It was very much about, hey, look, you told me you want a 3-bedroom house with a north-facing section in Mount Eden. Here you go. There's a 3-bedroom house with a north-facing section, and we are in Mount Eden. Take a look at the house, and then I would ask them if they're interested or not. If they were interested, brilliant. I would work with them to try and get them the house. If they weren't very interested, I will try and see if I can convince them somehow, but if not, I would let them go and look for another property for them. Again, when the market crashed suddenly, things changed for me. Suddenly there was no urgency in buyers to buy anymore. They could wait to see what happened. And not only that, there was a lot of fear, just like right now. There's a lot of fear in the air. What will happen? Will prices plummet even more? What will happen with real estate? And I couldn't understand exactly how and which way I need to work with buyers. So I did some research, watched videos, listened to CDs, read books, and I understood that I was doing things wrong. I was focusing on the things that the buyers told me that they wanted, and they could see those things. What I wasn't focusing, it was on showing them the dreams and the emotions. And Kristen touched on this a little bit with adding value, but I wasn't showing them anything that was dreams and emotions. I was showing them what they could see. And so instead of talking to buyers about, look, this is a 3-bedroom house, I changed my conversations and I would talk about emotions. And so I would walk them through the house and we would stand at the back and I would say to them something like, look, just imagine us standing here, a group of friends, the barbecue is on, you've got a bottle of beer in your hand. Can you smell the cooking? Can you see how the party is happening? Do you see yourselves living in here? Or look down at the bottom of the section. Could you imagine your kids running up and down? The cries of joy, the smiles on their face. I would build emotions to get them to see how they could live in the house and enjoy being in that house. And my closing questions changed as well. It wasn't anymore about, are you interested? It was about, how does the house feel to you? Focusing on emotions gets people to see what they don't necessarily see, to feel the things that they need to see in a property or in a product or in a service. Nobody ever bought a house from me because the house is a 3-bedroom. They bought the benefits of having a 3-bedroom house. Nobody ever bought a house from me because the house was in a specific school zone. They bought the benefit or the dreams of their kids graduating from that school with whatever education and the benefits and how the kids will benefit from that. Focus on the dreams in whatever product, whatever service, whatever job it is that you do. Find the dreams, find the emotions, because that's what people are buying. If you think about it, if you ever gave somebody or got a diamond ring from somebody, was it because the diamond is such a strong material that was forged under immense pressure and heat and is almost 100% carbon? Or was it because of the dreams and the emotions? Diamonds, I don't know how many of you know, but diamonds weren't very popular until the beginning of the 20th century, when the De Beers Corporation in South Africa started to sell the ideas and the emotions through movies in Hollywood, and then it became such a big thing. So sell the emotions, sell the dreams, and work with them, and you will see how people are more interested in what you have to sell them. So those were the 3 lessons. Follow up, go back to basic, and work on emotions and dreams. And if you do that, your business or your sales or your job, whatever it is that you do, will improve and you can build more on it. But there's 2 more things that I want to discuss before I finish this. The first one is this. Right now, the environment is uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainty in the air. People don't know. People are losing jobs. Businesses are struggling. Some businesses are closing, whether they're big businesses or small businesses. And we as salespeople, as business owners, as employers, or even as employees, when we meet people, our job is to bring energy and life into the conversation. If we go to an appointment and we look miserable and unhappy and sad, nobody would want to deal with us. Nobody wants to deal with unhappy, miserable people. So if you are going into an appointment, make sure that your mindset is right, that you've got that energy, that you have that ability to talk and to be happy, because energy brings energy and people would want to deal with you because of your energy. And the final thing is my pitch, because at the end of every presentation, there needs to be a pitch. I've asked Grant a few months ago if I could speak in the network group because I want to try and help in the same way that Kirsten is trying to help. So if anything that I spoke about today made sense or resonated with you, or you think that I can help with you, give me a call, send me an email, and invite me to a cup of coffee. And let's sit down and have a chat and see if I can help. Because if I can help you over a cup of coffee to solve problems, to help you resolve issues, I would gladly do it. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you enjoyed the evening and will enjoy the rest of the evening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gary. It's really great to get that excellent messaging. And look, for anyone who would like to take Gary up on his offer and have that cup of coffee, the best way to get in touch with him is through his website. And if you just scroll down on the event page, you'll see that there's a button there to take you straight through. You can reach out through the Contact Us page, or you can also get in touch with him through Business Strategy. So we've got a link for Gary that you can go in and ask any questions or make that connection. And once you've made that connection online, the immediate thing that I'd love for you to be able to do is to take that connection offline, meet Gary in real life, and enjoy the opportunity to talk business, talk emotion, talk growth together with him. So Gary, you did talk about a number of things which are really, really important for salespeople, and through that very tough time when many people were leaving the real estate industry and you decided to stay in and go back to basics. I'm sure you went through some dark days, and it is possible that there are some people on here at the moment who maybe have still got a job, but if they're in a sales profession, the pressure is probably on for them to deliver not only for themselves, but also for their entire organization. So when you woke up in the morning and you thought, right, I'm going to recommit today to doing the basics, what was it that went through your head that got you going, that moved you forward, and that helped you to really make the most of all the moments, even the tough moments, as you were moving forward?
There were two things. It's really funny. I was just going through my head as you were talking about it. After I started selling real estate, my wife gave me, you know, those round badges that people put on their clothes. Sometimes they have the peace signs. So my wife gave me one of those buttons or badges, and on it there was a painting of Batman and 3 words: courage, determination, skill. And I glued that badge to my car, and whenever I struggle, I would look at it and I would repeat it to myself: courage, determination, skill, keep on going. Courage, determination, skill, keep on going. But the other thing that I learned that I think is really, really important is that we need to focus on the things that we can control, not on the things that we cannot control. I could control how many people I would speak to. I could control what I would say. I could control my mindset and how I would balance my energy. And so that's what I would focus. I would focus on making connections, on talking to people, and just building relationships. And if you do that, if you focus on those things, things will happen. Don't worry about the big picture. Focus on the small things, and the small steps will get you to where you are. That's what I've focused on.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's really great. Now, Gary, I know that as part of what you do, you often speak to reasonably large groups of many people, 100 or more. So for some of those types of things, what are some of, very briefly, because we're at the end of our time, 2 or 3 quick things that you do in order to really help an audience? And maybe we'll have some people on here who are in the profession of sales management and might be thinking about how they could incorporate somebody like you with that messaging into an upcoming conference, maybe something virtual, but hopefully something in person. When you get up in front of people and it's time to share a little bit about yourself, what are some top tips to help people do that in a really excellent fashion?
People resonate with stories. I mean, it's not just about data. It's not just about, I have no PowerPoint. I don't like to work with PowerPoints, but it's about, really, most problems are more or less the same. Industries change a little bit, but the problems are more or less the same. The issues are more or less the same. And stories with points can make people understand how to overcome it. So I tell my story, I share stories, I share my experience or experiences of students, of people that I trained, people that I worked with. And those stories help people see how the problems that were solved on stage through the story can help them in their life and in their careers.
Thank you. Excellent. No, that's really great. And we've all got stories that we can share. And I love that approach because it does give each and every person the opportunity to bring something very unique, very personal to the stage and to the conversation, and to be able to share that. And let's face it, we can all relate to those stories as well. So look, Gary, thank you very much for your time tonight. It's great to have you on and to share some of that really great wisdom and also the importance of that discipline, keep going and be able to really focus on those emotions, understanding the pitch and keeping on going.